Hey everybody, Vestmore here, and today we're taking another look at the new card game by Riot, Legends of Runeterra. Ever since the game was announced, I've been eager to get my hands on it, and with early access to the open beta starting today, I figured what better day to drop a video. Now, one of the questions I usually find myself asking whenever I get into a new card game is, what's the best budget deck? You know, what's the best deck that's going to kind of get me through my early journey and essentially get me some wins so that I can build up my own collection and go off to build better decks. So I figured in today's video, I'd bring you guys my own budget deck that you can use to great effect at the beginning of your Legends of Runeterra journey. If you enjoyed this video, do be sure to leave a like, and of course, if you'd like to see more Legends of Runeterra coverage on the channel, do let me know in the comments down below. So first off, players coming into Runeterra even on day one are all going to be in a very similar boat. Since you can't actually buy card packs, there doesn't seem to be a way to quickly expand your collection other than playing and winning games. What this means, of course, is that early on, everybody is going to be stuck with pretty much the same cards, with more of the cooler, more technical cards out of reach until later down the line. These cards come in the form of 3 starter decks that you're given after you complete the prologue. These are an Elise Darius deck, a Jinx and Zed deck, as well as a Demacia Freljord deck that contains 4 champions. Now, I've tried all 3 of these decks and they're all honestly serviceable. They're not horrible, they do the job. I would say probably the Jinx and Zed one is the weakest. However, compared to each other, they seemed pretty equal. Now, if you've played a card game before, you'll know that starter decks usually do not make the cut against more constructed, more personalized decks. But among each of these 3 starter decks, there are some really nice cards. Specifically, the Elise deck has a ton of the core cards you need to construct a good Spiders deck. So that's what we're going to be making. Assuming you know the basic premise of this game, this deck is super easy to play. Your main goal is to fill the board with spider cards and do as much damage to your enemy as possible. The mainstay card of this deck is Elise. She's a 2-mana champion, of course, with fearsome, meaning that she can only be blocked by enemies with 3 or more attack. This is very useful for the early game because most early units won't be able to meet this criteria, meaning you can attack with her freely. When attacking with Elise, she summons a 1/1 Spiderling token to her right, which not only puts extra damage and blockers on the board for you to use, but also allows her to work towards her level up condition, which has it so that if there's 3 spiders on the board alongside Elise, she levels up. Once leveled up, she turns into Spider Queen Elise, which gives all other spider allies Challenger and Fearsome. Since the other objective of this deck is to get as many spiders on the board as possible, this means that pretty much all of your other units will have access to these buffs, meaning you can make favourable trades with your opponent as well as not be chump blocked by smaller enemy units. But enough on Elise, let's take a look at our normal units. In the early game, you've got value cards such as Hapless Aristocrat and House Spider, both of which spawn spiderlings, allowing you to swarm the board with units. Arachnoid Horrors are useful for killing stronger units that have 3 HP, as well as not being killed by smaller units blocking it and killing it due to its fearsome ability. On the higher end of the curve, you've got Frenzied Skitterers and Arachnoid Hosts, both of which permanently buff all other spider allies that are currently on the board. These allow your weak spiderlings that are generated by Elise and your other units to essentially still hold value later in the game. The final card in the deck that revolves around the spider synergy is Brood Awakening. This is a 6-mana spell that summons 3 spiderlings and buffs all the power of each spider on the board by +1. This is an absolutely amazing card if you've fallen behind or perhaps you've suffered from a board wipe, as in the worst case scenario you're essentially getting 3 2/1s all at once. Just be sure to be aware of the 6-unit limit so that you don't end up wasting spiderlings. So that's the core spider package of this deck. It's fairly simple, super cheap to craft if you don't have any of the cards, and the best part is you actually do have most of these cards from the aforementioned Noxus and Shadow Isles deck. However, there is another side to this deck that we have to go over. Since spiders thrive off of strength and numbers, they're pretty weak on their own, meaning individual units are most likely going to die. 1/1 Spiderling tokens in particular. However, don't fret because we can turn this weakness into a strength by utilizing cards that do something when units die. A good example of this is the Phantom Prankster card, which deals 1 damage to the enemy nexus anytime one of your units die. While 1 damage per unit doesn't sound like a lot, it definitely adds up. And you'll frequently find yourself in positions where your opponent doesn't actually want to attack you, as if you run one of your 1/1 spiders into him, he's going to take damage and lose the game. Other than Phantom Prankster, it's mostly spells that will be taking advantage of your units dying. You have good value spells such as Crawling Sensation, which spawns in 2 spiderlings for 1 mana as long as a unit has died this turn. That's incredible value. On top of that, you have Black Spear, which is a 2 mana cost card that deals 3 damage to any enemy unit as long as one of your units has died. Considering that there's a 4 mana cost card that does a similar thing but requires you to discard a card as well, it speaks volumes about the value of this card. And last but not least, you have Fresh Offerings. If 3 of your units have died this turn, for 3 mana you can summon Vilemore, a 6/6 who also benefits from any of your spider buffs, which is insane. Now, it wouldn't be much of a deck if you couldn't trigger these things yourself, so we have 3 Ravenous Butchers who require you to kill one of your allies in order to summon. However, he does cost 0, so you could literally replace one of your spiderlings with him, no problem. You also have Glimpse Beyond, which allows you to kill one of your units and draw 2 cards, which is obviously quite useful if you're running low on cards in your hand, and even more useful when it actually cycles in a Black Spear. But other than that, you've got your soft and hard removal options, or what's left of them. You have Vile Feast, which allows you to drain 1 health from an enemy, healing you for 1 and summoning a spiderling. This pairs very well with Noxian Guillotine, which allows you to destroy a damaged creature. So assuming your opponent drops a massive creature on the board and it's looking at you funny, you can essentially use these 2 cards to get rid of it. You have Arachnoid Sentry, which is another spider creature that when you summon it, stuns an enemy creature, meaning they can't participate in combat. And last but not least, you have the Undying, who honestly doesn't really synergize with this deck too much. You can replace him for another Vile Feast if you want, another Fresh Offerings if you like, but I thought he was just a nice little pick. Not to mention, you start with him, so why not use him? But yeah, that's pretty much it. Get spiders down, get Elise down if you can, make your spiders more powerful, kill them off if you need to in order to kill off enemy units or to draw cards, etc. You really can't go wrong with this deck. Most of the cards are available at the start, and it only costs 12 common and 3 rare wildcards in order to complete the deck. This is obviously the budget version, but I do actually have a much more refined version of this deck, which should be going up on the channel alongside 5 other decks. So keep an eye out for that if you want to upgrade. But for now, that's it. Give the deck a try, let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you later. This is Vest, signing off.
I really hope you guys enjoyed that video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and also click on the little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss my next upload. Also, don't forget, you can check out 269 and Paradise Central streaming over on Twitch 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. Be sure to drop by and get involved. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.